Grady Powell, host of Forged in Fire.
Kyle Mann.
I'm J. Warner Wallace.
Kira Davis.
It's Ben Adams.
Hey, this is Dave Baker.
Carrie Pomeroli.
This is Mike Reiner.
This is Ethan Nicole.
This is Leanne Morgan.
It's Graham Parker, the 5th GP, and this is why you should never.
How I got suckered in.
I'm so embarrassed that I'm here.
You're wasting your time. You got better things to do.
Never listen.
Those darling, yummy Reverend and the Reprobate.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Reverend and the Reprobate.
But that's not what I was talking about.
We are joined today with a fan favorite and one of our favorite people to talk to. It's the host of Tatooine Sons. It is...
Oh.
Yeah.
I was waiting for the other guy to come in the room.
No.
Also, did you just boot your laptop?
I did. I started it up. I was trying to do some fanfare for David Jesse.
Hey, guys. Welcome to Boom. Maybe we should have waited for that
show.
part.
Nah, it felt right. Hey, David, what's going on?
Not much. How you
Thanks for
guys
coming
doing?
in the studio.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
I didn't know if this was actually real. I thought maybe it was just a figment of my imagination, but it is. It's just kind of scary.
It's both, yeah.
It's scary to think about, but yeah.
Remember, the camera's over here.
Is that it? I was looking at him.
No, yours is in the middle.
I'm just looking at them, you know.
I'm doing my one job.
What's your one job? Coffee?
Drinking coffee and
going,
throwing people off.
That's two things. Your one job is two things.
It's a two-parter.
It's a tandem thing. So in our interview that came out last week, Danley randomly started talking to a friend of ours who came on the show about Spawn.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And his
Some
whole
hot sports opinions about Spawn.
His whole premise for the Spawn conversation was this: I think Spawn should have more action.
Okay.
And our friend, so
So
that's it.
You respond to that too.
that was
thoughts?
it. Yeah.
which Spawn are we talking about?
There wasn't a question.
There's no
in it.
context for
no,
Spawn.
No question.
It
No
was-
context. Nothing.
It was on the creator.
Did you just turn your hat around in the middle of the show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I turned my volume down because y'all are getting loud.
Yeah.
Seth Macfarlane.
Right. So we've narrowed it down to the same Spawn that I was thinking of.
Yes,
'cause
yes.
That's pretty much it. So
Yeah, he wants to make another movie, which this is nothing new, right? He's been talking about this
it's
for
Seth MacFarlane, or is it Todd McFarlane?
It's Todd McFarlane.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said that, I was like, that's Family Guy.
Brian is just playing Spawn, and so Spawn's disinterested in everything.
I was getting ready for him to do like some American songbook, because he sings those songs
That would be
too, which
so
is
good.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I was trying to see
He
Spawn
is.
singing, some Frank Sinatra, and it was getting
He
weird.
is a great entertainer.
He's a fantastic
And-
entertainer
and
when
he
he's not
made-
cursing.
Yeah,
So,
and he made Johnny Bravo.
yeah, that's true.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he started out with Johnny Bravo.
Wow. It's all been downhill from there.
Okay, so Spawn. I think.
Okay.
The Todd McFarlane has talked about he wants to make a movie, another one because they made one in the late '90s.
Yeah.
And there was the HBO series, which was, I believe, 3 seasons. I have started watching that because I love the character Spawn.
Okay.
But there's so much, Batman gets a bad rap for being broody, which he is. But Spawn is really just hating himself, which is part of the character, but he's in an alley, and that's about it. And some people show up every now and then. There's a little bit of action, but it's mostly him just hating,
The world.
yeah. I think he's a character with his cape that can fly, that can move. In the 90s, there was that movie that there was a scene from it where he's flying through town. It looked cool to me, to however old I was, 14, 15. It's a rated R movie. Don't watch that. But I think
or the
Is
Passion
everybody
of the
in here
Christ.
over 17?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right? Yeah. Don't watch that or the Passion of the Christ because they're both rated R. What kind of logic is this?
I don't care. So he wants to make a movie, but he wants to be, horror themed, which I get. The characters, I forget what they're called, a necro something. They have some name. That
It's
he
a
made.
Hellspawn.
Hellspawn. Yeah,
Yeah.
But outside of that,
Necromancer.
There's a bigger word.
Okay.
Necro-ish.
Necro adjacent.
But I think that he should not do that.
Okay.
And like maybe what we expect from Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, that is going to have some horror themes.
Okay.
I think they should make an action movie because I would love to see Spawn again in action,
In action.
actually doing something.
Other than standing in an alleyway and being
Crying.
broody. Yeah, because we already have Batman for that. Like, if anybody needs to
Yeah,
just
it's
stand in
covered.
an alleyway and
It's
be
covered.
broody.
That character's already been done.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still trying to figure out where your question's coming from.
There's not one.
Do you agree?
Do you agree? That's it.
I've never read a Spawn comic or seen a Spawn movie or TV show, so I guess you know
They also
what?
had a video game on like the Xbox.
I mean, I'm aware of
It's like
Spawn.
Sega.
I remember when Spawn, the comic book, came out, but I wasn't interested in buying it. And so, no, I mean, I remember, I think I've watched maybe 20 minutes of the Spawn movie, and I don't know what, that was the 90s.
Yeah.
So
it was kind of right up my alley in its day. John Leguizamo was the demon.
I remember that part.
Giant
Maybe that's
fat
why I didn't
clown.
watch this movie.
Yeah, but to me,
Look, if I need to see giant fat clowns, I'll turn on C-SPAN.
Yeah,
I
but
don't need to watch. I need to watch John Leguizamo.
all right, let's get the show started.
And it's only going to go downhill from here.
So, anyways,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
actually,
Welcome
I
to
do
the
want to
show,
point
David.
out that I did not bring up Spawn this time. Lucas did. But if we're going to talk about it, I'm curious about your thoughts, and yours are.
I don't care.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I do want to see John Leguizamo come back as the sadistic clown.
Look, if
demon.
John Leguizamo was going to be involved in that movie, I stick by what I said. He needs to be like the best boy grip or something where they just keep him off the actual set. He needs to not be seen and or heard. Like,
Why are
like
you
he's
so
from
mean
the,
to John
like he's
Leguizamo?
from the Milford School in Arrested Development. He needs to be neither seen nor heard. That's how he needs to be. David, welcome to the show.
Buster's
we're so glad,
great at that.
Yeah, we're
What's
so
up,
glad to
gentlemen?
have you on. So stuff with Tatooine Sons has now shifted over the past few months. You guys are doing less
Yeah.
Star Wars content and more. I say less.
when did that
You're
shift
not
happen,
doing
by the way?
exclusively
Was-
Star Wars content now. You're doing pop culture stuff, which has been really cool.
About a year ago.
I was say it feels like about a year ago we heard from you, and you said, "Hey, we're going through some changes," and we were all very excited to find out what those were.
Yeah.
Which is really you opened up, what you're covering, which is great because there's a
We were
ton of-
already
there's a-
talking about WandaVision and getting
Yeah.
ready to talk about some of the other stuff. So we figured, let's not lie about who we are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's be open about this.
We love Star Wars and a bunch
And a
of
bunch of
other
other stuff. So, and with the Batman movie coming out, I knew we were going to get to this week. So,
Yeah, and you do have a really cool new revamped website, which it's very like I get stuck on it. Yeah, because it does a bunch
Revamp.
it does a bunch of stuff whenever you go to the website that our website doesn't do. Pull up, direct you to links about the show.
when those get updated,
Yeah.
we're about 4 episodes behind right
That's
now.
okay.
So-
Actually, we're up to date.
Are we?
oh,
our
congratulations.
High five.
Maybe aside from Fred Keel. Maybe
Yeah.
aside from the most recent one.
Who?
It's amazing how that keeps, you keep having to do that. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
it's weird.
It's annoying. I
Should
go
be
and look, I'm like, what
automated.
the heck? We're on like 6. Y'all should
I
have
just
sent me an
updated
email.
this. Yeah, and Fred's done a ton of promotion for our episode, which was really nice.
Yeah.
Of Fred. So
He's of Queen Cobra Comics,
yes,
the author.
Very cool.
Yep. And so David is kind of wrapping up our series with comic book friends and authors. So I'm curious. We know a lot about your
And
boys
Ashley's.
and Ashley's. Yeah, we know a lot about your boys with like their interest in comics. We know that you were interested in Star Wars. Like, what other comic books and things were you into whenever you were growing up?
Yeah, I remember reading the black suit Spider-Man stuff when it first started. I was big into that. So the symbiote Spider-Man and some Daredevil stuff growing up. That's kind of my introduction to comics. I was kind of all over the board with other things. I would pick up a Batman issue or whatever, like Death in the Family. I was big in that. And then I was all in on the Death of Superman and the Reign of Superman. I was at the comic book store when those issues were being released, the Doomsday stuff. And then when he died, which I always thought was interesting because he died on April 15th and it was tax day. And for me, that made a lot of sense. Because I just started
political
working
statement from the
and I was
boys at
seeing my
DC.
taxes coming out of my paycheck and I'm like, this sucks. It's so...
Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah, so I remember that, and then the reign of the Supermen, so the rebirth storyline, and then I went off to college and I just didn't really have the chance to get into comic books again. And now we can't find any of those comic books, so it's the sad thing for me. But yeah, those were my comic book stories growing up.
I've got a stack of them, but mine was Batman.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know.
You're a bat.
I
you're a
always
batophile?
back paddle. I'm
Hold
a
on.
huge
You do what?
you back paddles.
paddle.
Back
think it's
paddle,
back
or do you
pedal.
back pedal?
I'm pretty sure it's back pedal.
It is back pedal.
But that's okay. I was watching like maybe a new swimming event.
I was
or
visually. Do you want credit
Okay.
for visually
Back paddling.
Yeah, kind of paddle. It's like paddling a boat. I was picturing like one of those. What's those things paddle.
Yeah,
boat.
it's an oar.
You go
Yeah,
back.
paddle
Just
boat.
do it backwards. So there's still pedals involved, which
Right,
is really
yeah.
cool.
Back paddle also works.
Okay, both and. It's a both and.
Yeah.
I've heard it both ways.
But Batman,
Nice.
Batman with Keaton, the
yeah.
animated series.
Elf.
I mean, pretty much anything except for Ben Affleck for me.
Really?
He ended up. I loved the portrayal in the Snyderverse version of Justice League. I thought that felt like more of a Batman at heart to me. But
Didn't like him in Batman versus Superman?
I didn't really like that movie.
Didn't like that movie at all.
It was the fight scene was cool.
Have you seen the Ultimate Edition on
I
HBO
don't
Max?
know.
It's got like 30, 45 minutes more footage in it. It's a lot. It's a lot better. So I'm dead serious. You should check it out. Like BB Nate would be like making the argument for me right now, and I can't. But he made the argument. We all watched it again, and we're like, oh, actually, that's not a bad movie.
So maybe that's something I need to check out.
Yeah, it's available on HBO Max.
But I'm not going to be very critical of anything because it's been my whole life.
Right.
With the Adam West show. I don't know
Why do you like
watched.
Batman so much? Because I tried to, because with Nathan, he's huge in the Batman, and I've got my own theories, and he's tried to explain a little bit why, but I don't know if he understands why he likes the Batman so much.
It's just something I latched onto early on. Like it wasn't the the dark version necessarily in the beginning because it was. Yeah, I would come home from elementary school and try to catch Batman. I don't remember when it came on, but it was pretty soon after I got home. And ever since then, I friggin' love him. Even Will Arnett's version.
Will Arnett's version is
Will Arnett-
arguably
it's-
the best.
It's a great addition into the lore of Batman.
The Batman pantheon.
the most self-aware of all the Batman.
I think so.
presentations.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
So now I think that with Nathan, Nathan is the younger brother, and Sam is this like academic rock star, straight A's all throughout school, studying to be an engineer. All of these, much more of an outgoing personality.
What
and so
a
when
jerk.
Yeah, I know. So exactly. So I think that I honestly, this is my dad overanalyzing Sam and Nate. And they don't listen to your podcast, so it doesn't matter.
Perfect.
Neither do our wives.
Yeah, neither do our wives. Here's Adam, but we tell people not to. You know this.
This is a safe place.
Exactly. So I feel like Nathan sees himself as like Sam is Superman and he's Batman. Sam is the one with all the superpowers and everybody's like always looking at him, and Batman is the everyday guy that has to figure it out on his own. It doesn't have super strength, but just has to be
It has
really
figured it
creative.
out, but no one will listen.
Exactly. And so that's always the way I viewed why he likes Batman more.
So
than
Nate's secretly loaded.
Nate's no, he's secretly a genius, is what it is. But yeah. You wait to hear the next episode of the show when he makes his argument for why the Batman needs to be made. That movie, it's pretty impressive. So
I'm.
Wait.
I'm now.
Which one?
this one, the one that we had, so he had a confrontation with his mom just a little bit after she watched the Batman. About why she felt like it was not a movie she would recommend. And it was more of those like laid back. He didn't really react. But then he comes to me before we record the next episode and he's like, that dad moment segment that you do, Dad? I want to do it this week. So,
Whoa.
I'm like, okay, so we get into the recording. I have no clue what's going to be said. And he goes and he makes this argument for why the Batman had to be the way that it was in the film. And I'm like, that was a dang good argument.
Yeah. Awesome.
So I can't wait
Good for him.
Yeah. Which
That is
will-
always impressive because my son's getting bigger, but when he says something of true value, that I go, I appreciate you saying.
Yeah,
I
he did it a
appreciate
few
that.
weeks ago too. We were in the car and I had Spotify kind of scrolling randomly through songs. And when we drive in the car, Nathan is an introvert. I'm an introvert. Most people don't realize that about me, but I am totally an introvert. And so we get in the car and it's silence while we're driving anywhere.
Yeah.
Neither of us are talking. But if somebody says something, it's usually important. And we were finishing up what we were doing. We're pulling into the driveway to our house, and a Stephen Curtis Chapman song came on in
Wonderful.
the rotation. It's
Still the king,
He's
man.
still awesome. And I'm like, you know what?
I love Stephen
I do
Curtis Chapman.
too. I was like, of all the guys that I have been in Christian music my entire life,
Right.
he's one of them that my respect for him has never waned. It's actually gotten better for him this entire time. I'm like, there's something special about this guy. And then all of a sudden, BB Nate, who you never know if he's really paying attention to any of these things, he starts laying out the argument for why he thinks Stephen Curtis Chapman is a man that should be respected. And I'm like, how do you even know who this guy
no
is?
joke.
Wow. It was really cool. So
That is pretty cool. What does he know about it? Like, what's his?
That same
just what he's
stupid
picked
song
up.
you keep playing over and over and over again every
There's a
rehearsal.
really difficult song that I'm just continuing to practice.
which song?
Tomorrow morning when you
It's called.
Please no.
No, that's the one.
No.
Yeah. I Will Be
I
Here.
will be here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
seriously, dude. That song is
Because-
dead. All right.
No, but okay. Let me explain the reason. My
Okay.
dad and my uncle, my whole life, have played this song at every family wedding, and
Absolutely.
they're both astounding guitarists.
Oh,
And-
wow.
And they
This is
have
true.
a version that I'm trying to learn.
That's
I
cool.
went to my dad's house and recorded him playing it, so I can practice what he's done.
Yeah, and then Danley is going to be asked to play it at his cousin's wedding.
I've already been asked to play.
And he's going to show her that he can play it, and then he's going to tell her no. You mean this? And then he's going to play the whole thing,
Yeah.
and he's going to be like, no, I won't play
Yeah.
that at your wedding.
I am capable, but I refuse.
That's the reason he's learning it, is so that he can just tell his cousin no.
No, it really is actually. It's a connecting to my dad.
That's
and,
cool.
Yeah.
You know.
That's pretty cool.
And it is a really pretty version of the song.
Yeah.
I just can't listen to the song because
I
I
know.
heard it too many times whenever I was growing up.
There's a few songs that you grew up with, you know, that they stay with you. Another one is I've Seen the Light. I don't know who wrote it, but my dad and senior pastor, Brother Glenn and Brother Chris, the music pastor, they three would get up and do solos. Or I guess it was a trio.
Right.
And it brought down the house every time.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool.
It was Christmas. If we didn't have I Have Seen the Light.
Oh, I know
it,
that
It
song.
was
Oh,
a
yeah.
Christmas.
It's a big choir anthem too. Lots
Yeah.
of churches do it as a choir anthem.
Yep.
Yeah. Very cool.
Well, there you go. So Danley's. So he made this argument about Stephen Curtis Chapman and like good.
Yeah, and it was like he was really paying attention, and he made a really good argument. And I'm like you're saying, when your kid brings up something like that, and you're like, oh my gosh, they actually are. You know, there is something going
thank you,
on
God.
inside of them at this point. I
He's
mean,
been such a dunce.
no, I don't mean it like that. No, good thing your kid doesn't listen to this show too. All right.
Yeah.
He probably will listen to this one.
Yeah.
But no, we've talked about a couple things he's done. He shot out a window with a BB gun a couple months ago. I got advice from one of our heroes on how to deal with it.
Yeah.
He knows what's up. He knows that if he crosses a line, I just might talk about it.
Yep.
There you go.
This is something my child will have to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right now, he's not doing anything but making my wife sick
Yeah.
and sleepy.
You might be in the sermon,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
right?
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Dad
Like,
might
there's-
bring you
Or
up.
the podcast.
yeah,
in this
that's
case.
exactly
So-
right.
I don't have a sermon.
So you have the podcast.
No, so you
This
just have
is
the
it for
this
me.
is it.
This is my one shot.
Which arguably more people listen to. It's a bigger platform.
Well,
Yeah.
I got nothing to say to that. What's next, fellas?
I
need
do
my
want to
water.
talk. I do want to talk a little about the Batman.
Okay.
I know you guys have talked about it on your podcast. Now this will be what is upcoming. The one that we'll release after this episode is released. Will have been your
just
third
cut-
episode
we'll just
where you
cut
talk
that
about
explanation.
Yeah. No, we won't. We won't. Our audience expects me to over-explain things and to ask questions that are
and for me to
120
get-
to 360 seconds long.
Yep.
Yeah.
You do really
the
good.
questions that last 4 times longer than the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about all this? Yeah. Okay, great. Fantastic.
Yes.
Kind of like the
Yes.
Spawn question earlier.
Yeah.
That took
Which
us about
wasn't a question.
8 minutes to get to a non-question, and it was like, I don't know, I haven't seen it.
It's really a comment. It's really a really old commentary.
You know, you guys
That
do
I'm
the
curious
Chris
if you-
Farley Saturday Night Live interview bit. You just do it cooler, okay?
Hey, do you remember that one time when Anakin had the low ground and Obi-Wan had the high ground?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That was awesome.
That was awesome.
Awesome.
So I did. Okay, we'll get back to the other thing I was going to talk about in just a second. I did see something in relation to this this thing Danley's talking about. Anakin had the low ground, and then and then Obi-Wan had the high ground, which
Squirrel.
was in Return of the Jedi. There's this scene where Luke is standing on top of the stairs and Darth Vader's at the bottom, and he goes, "Obi-Wan has taught you well."
Yeah.
It's like,
The high ground.
yeah. So I'm wondering, is there, obviously that's something that like fans have interjected because George Lucas hadn't written episode 3.
George Lucas didn't think about that at all.
Yeah. Also,
I was about to say that.
Darth Vader ain't
No.
trying to flip over Luke.
This
Like,
is true.
like he's not about to use his robot legs and be like, "Oh, hold on just
He
a
has
second."
learned his lesson.
Yeah, no. Yeah, not at all. So, the Batman, you've seen the movie now 3 times. How do you feel the Pattinson portrayal is? And then where do you think his portrayal belongs in the Batman pantheon?
Wow, that's a great question. Which in the podcasting world, that's what you answer when you don't really know what you're going to say.
You need more
Right.
time.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
want to think about it.
Really?
I loved the original Michael Keaton version of Batman just because it was so different. I mean, you guys we were talking about it before the show a little bit, as you guys were talking about being little kids when that thing came out. I wasn't a little kid, but anyway, going to the theaters and seeing that, it was like, this is the first time I think I've seen a superhero movie on screen that felt like a real superhero movie. It kind of felt like a comic book. And at the time, now looking back, whatever it's been, 33 years later. God, I'm old. 33 years later, you go back and you watch it, and it's campy. Jack Nicholson's Joker is really not that great, and those types of things. But it's just super nostalgic, and you get to Christian Bale's version of it, and Christian Bale's Batman was pretty good. His Bruce Wayne was terrible. At that point. But the stories were darker and they were more grounded than that. When you get to this version of it, the thing that I think a lot of critics are missing about this version of Batman and this version of Bruce Wayne is, I'll throw in a Ben Shapiro tweet. He tweeted about this on Thursday or Friday, and he was like, "It's a terrible Batman. It doesn't make sense. He's not comfortable with being Batman and all this other stuff." And I'm like, how could a guy get it and then not get it so clearly in one tweet? Because he's like,
Well, you got owned, Ben Shapiro.
Ben Shapiro's
we need to have some of those glasses come down over David.
It's okay.
Thug life.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, yes, he doesn't feel comfortable being Batman. That's kind of the whole point of this movie.
Yeah.
He's still early on in this. He doesn't know who he is as a mythical vigilante figure. He's not happy with who he is as Bruce Wayne. All of that is what this is about. So, when you look at it from being this year 2 version of Batman, which, I know you guys talked about it with Nate on the show. He read, that book that came out, the prequel book about it. And I've read that book too. He's still trying to figure out what this means. And by the end of the movie, he does. He understands what his role is, and he actually kind of steps into that in a bigger way. And that's what makes this version of Batman so interesting. And I think Robert Pattinson, you can make fun of the guy all you want because of Twilight, and you should, because Twilight's terrible.
And he died in Harry Potter. Like,
I didn't even know he was in Harry Potter.
yeah, he's in Harry Potter for one movie.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that was him until we rewatched it, like, because my wife is a huge Harry Potter fan.
right.
So we rewatched it, and he dies at the end of Harry Potter, and I was like, that can't be Batman. He sucks.
But did you guys see Tenet? The Christopher Nolan Tenet?
Yeah,
I mean, he
yeah.
does a great job.
Yeah, he
in
was good
Tenet.
in that.
He's a great actor. You can see, and watching all the the interviews ahead of time and everything, he loves this idea of Batman. He loves this character. He's read a bunch of the comic books. He understands this character. He's probably more understanding of the character of Batman than any of the other guys that have portrayed him before, from what I can tell.
Right.
And so his portrayal of Batman and this idea of Bruce Wayne was great, but it's not what you would expect. It's not, the Dark Knight trilogy version, and thank God not the George Clooney version, but he's.
But what about the Val Kilmer version?
I've
Yeah. What about that virgin?
Yeah, what about that version of Batman? I can't talk
Yeah,
today.
you softened it
Yeah,
up
I
big
know.
time.
That was awful.
Anyway, I liked it. So all of that.
I'm curious of where they're going to go and if there is another one, right? So we just finished up opening weekend, and the numbers for opening weekend were well above what was initially projected. But you had mentioned, I think on y'all's Friday episode, that the projections were just continuing to go up as the weekend was arising. What do you think was driving that?
It's fantastic word of mouth. First of all, when you look at the way that the Rotten Tomato scores just continued to go up, it's still, I don't know what it is right now, but I'm assuming it's still over 90.
$128 million is where they're at.
Well, I'm talking
right
about
now.
the Rotten
Tomato
scores.
score.
I think it's like, it was 91, 92 a couple of days ago when I checked it out from the fan side of it.
Right.
With it, the fan interest has been fantastic. Yeah, you got some people that didn't get it, thought it was boring. They fell asleep because it was raining. But
Sure was wet.
it was wet and dark. And I saw it in the theater with 6 people. But other than that,
I did not see that story going that way.
I didn't either.
I didn't either. It's kind of the weirdest Sunday school story I've heard in a while. So anyway, there's a couple of them in there, by the way. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think that the fan interest has just gone up, or has continued to build in it. You know, I've told everybody that I know that's interested in it to go see it. So I think that that's just continuing to drive this train. I think it's good. Sam actually brought this up on the show a couple of episodes ago, where BB Nate and I thought that it was going to, blow up $150-160 million domestically. He kind of said that it would be lower than that and continue to build over the next couple of weeks.
I could see that.
And I think that's exactly what's happening with this. Although the projection, the box office is fantastic. It's like 250 million worldwide, which is tremendous for this film. So.
Yeah, we got 128 domestic, and it's still at audience score with 10,000 plus verified ratings is at 89%.
How does it feel to have children so smart that you can cite them?
It reminds me.
You just Nate thinks it'll come up to 228 domestically.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's so fantastic,
and that seems very plausible.
He's crunched the numbers.
You know what? One thing I learned early on in the podcast was the less I talk and the more that I let them talk, the better the show's going to be.
Yeah.
So they're smart kids. Thank God that they were homeschooled by their mother. That makes a big difference. So.
And I do shout out to their mother, the lovely Mrs. Tatooine Sons, for helping us pull off one of the greatest Facebook.
We got one thing to say. We got him.
We got him.
Yeah, it's my phone's buzzing like crazy right now. I have a feeling
Is it
people
really?
are commenting on it.
I'm so excited about
May
that.
as well explain it at this point.
Yes, so David has no interest in Wordle.
None. I hate. In fact,
all.
I have a disinterest in.
Yep, but
Wordle.
has mentioned a couple of times
Let's see
that
where we
my
go with that.
Facebook is very. He's proud at how consistent I am because the only things that I post are Wordle and right now like things about the Ukraine. And so
there it is.
Yeah, so he mentioned in a Facebook post, he said, if anybody sees a post from me about Wordle, then you know my phone's been hacked. And I challenged Danley to help me make this happen. And then the lovely Mrs.
Right before we
Tatooine
started
Sons,
recording, it got done.
Yep,
So,
the
yeah.
lovely Mrs. Tatooine Sons sends a message and goes, I will give you his password. And so we became friends that night.
That's why you guys were.
Yeah,
I'm
on Facebook.
What was that all about?
Yeah, because I've been talking to him about it because her Facebook is amazing. And I was like, dude, your wife's posts are awesome. He's like, yeah,
always-
she's great. But he's kind of giving me the side eye, like, why are you friends with my wife? Like, are you?
No, I don't
creep?
care. I just was like,
It's
why are we all of a sudden having this happen?
Yeah, but that was why.
Always be careful when Pastor Muscles slides into your DMs.
So, idiot. So before we start recording, we have an app that we use that controls our in-ear headphones. And so Danley was making David download it. Now David does not have to use it at all for this. He's making him download it, and then it automatically pulls up in demo mode. It won't connect to the computer. He's like, I'll go take it to Lucas so he can
Give me your
connect it to the thing. So we did Wordle, and he's walking in there. Danley's standing in front of me for a little bit, and then moves. And David's like, "You're just playing with my phone. What's going on in there?" He's like, "Are you posting a Wordle to my phone?" We're like, yes, we are. I had to figure out how to not post it on the Tatooine Sons Facebook.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I wanted to make sure it went on your personal and not being broadcast out to the 20-something
there is
thousand
a
people
fine
that follow
line.
y'all.
There's a fine line.
Yeah.
between a prank.
You can hack me personally, but
Yeah.
don't hack Tatooine.
Yeah, I won't.
Sons, right?
There's some things that remain sacred
There we
amongst
go.
podcasters. Yeah. So, yeah, it was, and we tagged Mrs. Jessie in it, and so I'm very happy to have been able to participate in that. Yeah, so that was our pre-show, and then we were trying to determine what we were going to talk about. We landed on
Which I don't think
Batman.
we still have figured out.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
There's
won't.
a bunch of stuff to talk about. Though.
Okay, so get one thing, go.
Well, I'm trying to find the name of this author, but I want to interview a book author.
Okay.
He wrote a book about, there's been a trend. It was in the early 2000s that really started. I don't know if it started with Twilight, but it's the Twilight trend of there's a monster who is very cute and tricks the young girl into,
Loving
wanting
him.
to date him.
Yeah.
It's like Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They made it. What did they do? They did vampires. They did zombie. There was a couple of those. Mm-hmm. One thing that this guy noticed is they hadn't done one with mummies. So he wrote a book. So he wrote a book with him and his friends. They self-published. It's called Unwrap My Heart.
I'm not sure where this is going right now.
I want to interview this author. He
You
gets,
wanna
he
talk
gets
to
to
him.
pick all these authors, and they're all great.
Yeah, and so you want to do Unwrap My Heart.
By Alex Falcone, it looks like.
Falcone? Uh-oh, now we got a Batman connection.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
There we go. Yeah, what's a rat with
Again,
wings?
there's plenty to talk about. It's not relevant, but this guy's been on my mind today.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Sweet.
There's an excerpt from it that she looked longingly into the holes where his eyes would be.
This is what it's like every week trying to do one of these. And Danley has, and since we're not going to be doing a live at 5 tomorrow, do you have an aquatic animal of the week? So
I had a
So we've
couple.
been going through these.
I like the.
You
Go
like,
ahead.
yeah.
Yeah,
So we've been
this
going
is
through
fun.
these. We had the mantis shrimp, which we talked about at lunch
that
yesterday.
the one that can punch through a shoe. a
Yeah,
boot.
punched through a guy's boot and
Yeah.
through most of his foot.
That's right.
And left him bleeding. There was the.
It's terrifying. And
Yeah.
People wonder why I don't go in the ocean.
That's exactly why I don't. That and it's really far away from Dallas.
It's a little harder
It's
for
hard
you.
to get to. Yeah.
It's 45 minutes for me.
Yeah,
It's
you
a little
guys are
bit
super
further
close.
than that. Yeah.
So do you like surf or anything, or you just like
No,
avoid the ocean?
no, there's no surfing in the Gulf Coast, in the Gulf of Mexico, by the way. The waves aren't good enough.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go with the fish from Ukraine.
Okay.
This time.
Okay. Great. What does it have a name?
There's a bunch of them.
You're just like picking a random fish from the Ukraine.
I was like, let's be topical. Blika Bjorkna. This wasn't a good idea. This was not a good idea.
What's
Just
this fish
list
do?
of fish in Ukraine on Wikipedia.
Yeah, and
Some of them are extinct, critically endangered. This isn't telling me a whole lot of specifics.
okay.
I wasn't planning on doing this right now. Okay. Apparently, I make people awkward when I get angry.
No, I didn't see anything
No,
awkward
huh?
there.
I didn't get angry.
No, normally Danley and I just fight each
Here
other.
we go.
when okay, here, you got one?
This sounds cool too. A Carpathian brook lamprey,
Oh, wow.
which
I'm just going to sit here and have my own little left behind moment with Carpathian,
Oh, yeah.
Nikolai Carpathian, the Antichrist.
yeah,
Wow.
he was.
I had a friend whose dad was in that movie.
Really? Mm-hmm. I'm sorry.
Nicolas Cage.
No, no, the other version, the one with Kirk
Cameron.
Yep.
Louis Gossett Jr.
Okay, Carpathian brook lamprey is a species of lamprey, which we actually talked about earlier in another episode. When we asked our wives what fish they most liked. There was one that had a triggerfish, right? We talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
Lampreys have a circular mouth with teeth, and they
wow.
latch on and suck blood.
Okay, that's disgusting.
That sounds terrible.
It's kind of painful.
It's a bad one to pick for Ukraine. I was trying to bring positive energy to Ukraine.
Hey, they need the fight right now, so let's
do.
go.
Mission.
Just throw some
failed.
lampreys at the Russians.
Yep.
That's all I got.
Yeah, my friend's dad played Rayford Steele.
No.
Really?
Yeah,
The dad.
yeah, Rayford Steele. That was her dad.
Really?
Yep.
Was she cool?
Yeah, she's.
So you guys, have you
she's
read
awesome.
the Left Behind
yeah,
series
yeah.
novels, the whole thing?
I don't think I did the last one or two, but I read most
I
of them.
couldn't get past Nikolai. Like after that one, I was like, ugh.
Man, this was like religion for me, man. I was getting my eschatology from Tim LaHaye and Jerry
I know
Jenkins.
everything now. I know how it's gonna go
I'm
down.
at my youth group in Arkansas teaching this, and like, okay, don't open your Bibles. Let's go to Apollyon, and let's.
What do you think happens to Buck Williams next?
Look, I've got a prop airplane at the hangar down the road in case anything happens. In case we start seeing people disappeared, we meet there.
Yeah,
That's right.
everybody's got their rapture buddy that like wears.
Where's your rapture, buddy?
So, Danley, I don't know if you knew this about David. I recently found this out. He's a musician.
I am. Oh.
Yeah.
How disappointed were you on Sunday?
No, I thought it was just disappointed there weren't any keys up there. That's all.
Yeah.
So that's it. So it was good. It was good. You guys did a good job.
You're a classically trained pianist,
Yeah, that has completely out of practice on that side of things.
but still,
Me too. I'm out of practice on that.
you're not a classically
I
trained.
took lessons.
Oh, you took piano lessons?
Yeah.
And you're trying to, like, how many piano lessons did
I'm
you
just
take?
agreeing that I also took piano lessons and I also am out of practice.
So as far as that goes, we've got that in common.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
So what did you told me you did some stuff with like musical theater, which I thought was interesting. So did you do those things like together? Were you in like the orchestra pit? Were you singing and
I
acting?
was singing and dancing.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
So not only do the three of us have that in common, but you also have that in common with Forged in Fire judge and historic weapons recreation
Wow.
specialist David Baker, who was in Grease 2.
Nice. The original Grease 2, like the movie Grease 2?
The movie Grease 2.
No way.
Yeah, before he started making
That's such
swords.
a bad movie, but anyway.
Yeah, before he started making swords, he was dancing on the second line, knocking books out of dweebs' hands.
Awesome. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I was doing my senior year of high school, I was in Christian school and public, and then homeschooled through 11th grade.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually in Christian school in my 11th grade year, and then the school closed, and it was like I'm like 15 years old. I was a junior, and
You were a young
sheltered, super sheltered, like
Do you
that guy. I was that kid.
find
Does you?
yourself oddly attracted and not physically attracted, but just
To
like,
you? Yes, I do. But I wasn't going to say it on air.
But since you asked so nicely, no. Do you find yourself attracted somehow, cosmically, will of God, whatever?
Sure. Yeah.
Where other homeschoolers come into your life? Because I have found that.
Were you a homeschooler?
Yep.
Okay.
So was he.
So was he. That's interesting.
What's up?
So was Kristen Weber,
Well,
who we've had on a bunch. She came here and did a comedy show.
I just think that
do we just see the? Do we see the
It's
weirdness in each other?
maybe that's the case. I also think that there's just where are the circles that we're in tend to be parents that were much more protective and hands-on of their kids.
Yeah, I hang out with a bunch of genius level rocket scientists, so that's why I'm that's why I know all the homeschoolers.
So anyway, yeah, it was good. So the school closes. I'm 15 years old, and I decide senior year, let's just go to public school.
There you go.
Just finish it out.
Yes, go for it.
And so I was in a school that was not a great school, and I needed to find my tribe to protect me with it. I found it in the drama department at that school.
Wow.
And so I did
That is a.
it was a place to hide more
a
than
refuge
anything.
on sinking sand.
Yeah, it was a refuge where I was hiding. That was about it.
Yeah.
With it, but I fell in love with it. and I
Quick,
did-
girls, protect me.
Like, what is it? The end of Blazing Saddles?
that's exactly what
you boot.
Not the face.
Yeah, so I did a bunch of plays with the high school, and then the director was doing a lot of community theater with some. There was this Kennedy Center, the Kennedy Center in Washington D.C. They had this initiative where they chose like 4 or 5 schools in the United States or communities in the United States to pour in arts funding and training and those types of things, and our city was one of those, and she was the director of that program. And so they did this version of Anne of Green Gables. You guys know that storyline, and Gilbert, who was the main young gentleman, love interest of Anne in that, the guy that was playing him dropped out, and they needed somebody, and she was like, would you audition? So I was scared to death, 15, 16-year-old kid at that time, and I had auditioned, and we toured all over the state and had a great time, and
That's awesome.
and I loved it. Yeah, I did lots of theater after that. And
Now, is this how you met John Denver?
no. Okay, the words of the wise. Anybody that's ever coming on this show again, be careful about the things you talk about before you go on the show.
You don't have to tell us how you met John.
All right,
Denver.
so I was
We trap.
So from the ages,
trappers.
yeah, exactly. From the ages of about 9 through 14, I was a part of a children's choir in Colorado, Colorado Springs, called the Colorado Springs Children's Chorale. And one of our big things for 3 summers was to sing at the WinStar Symposium. Now, if you know anything about John Denver, he was a big time new age, into some really, really law of attraction, metaphysical type stuff. And they
kind of like me and other homeschoolers.
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, exactly.
I manifest them.
That's
Yeah,
it.
you
That's it.
metaphysically
Leo
attract them.
Biscaglia was coming out to that, and some of these writers that were really crazy stuff. Yeah. So we're you have no idea who that is, do you?
Nope.
Okay, that's what
I know
thought.
who.
I was impressed that you said Leo Biscaglia without any breaks in it. That's what I was reacting to, not the author's name.
I know Bacchiat
Who's that?
and Lil Wayne.
That's definitely not anything to do with John Denver. Okay. So he did this symposium, 4,000 or 5,000 new agers would come from all over the world to talk about how they could get in touch with their, inner selves and their crystals.
They all got
and
together to wear hemp bracelets.
It was really like that in Aspen, Colorado. And so our choir would sing at it every summer for this symposium.
So how did your
Did they clap like this?
Yeah, how did your homeschool parents feel about you with a guy I know well, Dr. Leo Love Biscaglia, was speaking at this kind of stuff?
It got me out of the house for a week.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
No, they were cool. Being in the children's chorale was one of the highlights of my childhood. Honestly, touring with them and going, across the country, different things. We sang for President Reagan. I met President Reagan.
That's awesome.
With this 1986, and
You met the great one, huh?
I did. I shook his hand, talked to him about it. It was pretty cool.
Wow.
But we were there at the WinStar Symposium this summer, and I was my last year, and I was one of the tallest kids in the choir. So that meant whenever we would line up on stage for anything, I was in the back row, and I was one of the last kids that would come up on stage. And this was when John Denver, if people are listening to this show or watching this podcast or whatever, and they remember back in the 80s, John Denver did a lot of post-Raisin Bran commercials.
Okay.
It was that was his big endorsement deal.
Now, Raisin Bran I'm familiar with.
Yeah, so it was the Post version, not the Kellogg's version.
Okay,
Post,
gotcha.
right? And he would do this, and it was always, sunrise and birds, and he was standing there holding the box and all this other stuff. So we opened the symposium with a version of a Bach concerto, completely sung a cappella with different parts. And the idea was they were going to show all of these sunrise video scenes on this massive screen while we came up on stage in our pajamas, and we were supposed to lay down on the stage and pretend like we were asleep. And then when the video of the sunrise scenes stopped, we would start singing this concerto to open it up, and then we were going to hand him a box of Post Raisin Bran afterwards, kind of as a little joke, fun thing.
Okay, yeah.
With it. And so we're getting up on stage. We didn't practice that part of it at all. And so we're coming up on stage. I'm one of the last guys on there, and there's the only light in the entire auditorium is the screen that's showing this. I can't see anything. Stage 6 feet up off the ground and all. And I'm coming up there at the last second, and this video, I know the video is about to end. I could tell because I'd seen the video in practice. And so I know it's about to end, and I can't find a place to lay down. Anywhere with it. And I'm slow. So I don't know this is happening at the time, but there's this silhouette of me on the screen panicking, going back and forth with this blanket, going on. And finally, I'm like, the video is ending, and I see this spot towards the back of the stage right? That I'm like, it's open, I'm going for it, and I dive. Little do I know, there is no stage there. So people see my silhouette dive, and then they hear this big cry.
They're like,
And then they see me crawling back up on stage with it. So I guess John Denver's singing I'm up there singing. I'm all cut up on my leg and all this other stuff. So that was my falling off the stage with John Denver moment.
So what was better, that or shaking President Reagan's hand?
Oh, definitely shaking Reagan's hand. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Gipper.
The best part about that though was what happened afterwards, because so I meet. So it was at one of the midterm elections, 1986, and they announced like 48 hours before this happened. They announced that President Reagan was coming in town to campaign for a guy from our state running for Senate and a Republican running for governor, and he was going to do this big campaign rally. And they asked us to sing the national anthem at it, and so we go and we're doing it, and we're standing there, and you got 35. Preteens, in this group, and that was during the big, Nancy Reagan "Just Say No," war on drugs thing. So we're like literally chanting, "Just say no,"
during the midterms.
During the midterms, because we're thinking it has to do with the drug thing. But anyway, so after he finishes speaking, the campaign, the rally is over and stuff. He walks by and he comes and he starts like mingling, or not mingling, but shaking hands with the kids and stuff like that. And I meet him, and it was really awesome.
You like a jelly bean?
Yeah, I did hear he loves jelly beans.
He did
or
love
loves jelly beans.
Yeah. So afterwards, the local news starts picking out 2 or 3 kids to ask them about their experience of meeting President Reagan. And I'm 11 years old at this time, and. She comes. I can still remember. It's Lisa Leiden on Eyewitness News channels 5 and 30, because it was a UHF channel too. So it had channel 30,
nice. Yeah.
And I remember she comes up and she asks, "What did it feel like to sing for President Reagan?" And I'm 11 years old, and I'm trying to figure out how to describe that. There's no other feeling.
Yeah.
Like, how do you describe that? As an adult now, I can like elaborate more about that. I'm 11. Right. And I'm already nervous.
You can definitely buy time with like, oh man,
Yeah, that's a really great question. But you don't think about that at 11 years old.
11, it's just,
So she says that, she asked this question, and I go,
apparently
it felt like singing for the president. And my mother is standing there, because she was one of the chaperones for the event, and she is appalled because it feels so disrespectful. And they put that on TV that night at 10:30.
That's amazing. Do you have? You've got to have footage of that somewhere, right?
No, this is like we didn't have DVRs or anything like that.
Yeah, but you would have had VCRs.
Not in our house, we did.
Okay, because that was one of the. I learned the hard way that there were certain tapes that you didn't record over after I had recorded over them. And then Dad went and broke the tabs off of them, right? Because if you broke the tabs off of it, well, several years after he broke the tabs off all the ones we weren't supposed to record over, he showed me that there's this trick that you can do with cassette tapes where you can just put a little tape over them, and then it'll allow you to re-record. So I figured, why not?
So against all better judgment,
I did that, and I think the birth of
we overcame that obstacle.
The birth of my sister's now gone.
What is it now, though?
The Batman Returns, I think. Yeah.
What a horrible thing to do.
That was bad. But maybe one of the greatest Christmas movies ever made.
Yeah, it is just Kelsey.
Yeah. Womp womp. That was something that Ricky, I don't think, paid enough attention to, is what a great movie Batman Returns is for Christmas.
Why should I like Namor more than Aquaman? Does anyone have the answer to that? No.
Why you should like Namor more than Aquaman?
Yeah.
Because,
I know this is a big jump, but I'm bored.
Yeah, so his movie's better.
Yeah?
Yeah, because they just decided
Jason
not to do
Momoa
it.
as Aquaman I think he did a good job.
He did a good
But I feel like I should like
Justice
Namor.
League. Nah, here's the thing. The Aquaman movie's terrible.
The Aquaman movie is utterly predictable from start to finish. I don't know if it's necessarily terrible. But
it was
why
better
do you think it's terrible?
than what I thought it could be, though.
Okay, so
better
here's
than what I thought it would be.
Here's a couple of reasons I think the Aquaman movie is terrible. One, it's
Jason
terrible.
Momoa.
No.
it's terrible.
Two, ever heard.
One,
Yeah,
objectively.
I'm actually cool with Jason Momoa. Like, I don't mind Jason Momoa at all. Second, my Aquaman movie experience was not great because
Somebody was mad at you.
No, well, a few people were. So, there were a bunch of us that were friends that had come, or we were going to go to the movie, and then I had texted this girl that I really liked and thought was pretty cute, and I was like, "Hey, you should come to Aquaman." And she was like, "No, I don't think I'm going to go." I was like, "Well, we've got an extra ticket because the person that bought the tickets for all of us that we paid back, she got called into. She was an overnight nurse, and so she got called into work. So I have this friend who was a girl who sat next to me, and now that I've convinced this cute girl to come, who ends up being my wife, she now has to sit like 2 seats away next to my other friend, who is one of my best friends and has never she's never liked any person I've ever dated. So I was like, oh crap. So like my whole time
You're
I'm like
thinking about
yeah,
that.
I'm thinking about this the whole time. Well, the second thing was the person who had bought all the tickets, she's like, yeah, they called me up here, but I'm not going to be doing anything I know for at least 2 hours. And I was like, hey, I'm just going to FaceTime you in. And so I'm holding this thing and I'm FaceTiming her for the entirety of Aquaman while I'm thinking about what's happening over here. So my movie experience wasn't great.
So it wasn't necessarily the movie, maybe? Have you seen it since then?
No, I tried to
Also-
and I couldn't do it.
Is that something you want to admit on tape?
Yeah, that's fine. That I FaceTimed to somebody during a movie 5 years ago.
Cool.
Yeah, and my wife did ask our friend Samariah. She
I
she
figured
looked
it
at
was
yeah
Sam.
she looked at Samariah and she goes, "Hey, do you keep up with the Kardashians?" And Sam thought that it was the funniest and cutest question that she ever got, and she was like, "Oh, you would be such a good pastor's wife. You're just so sweet."
Yeah.
And come to find out, Kirsten's never watched
she
an
doesn't-
episode
she
of the
doesn't care about
Kardashians
that.
before.
So why did she ask this question?
She just felt awkward, and that was the first thing that came to her mind. So, yeah, shout out to all.
So are you going to watch the Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom when it comes out this Christmas, December, whatever?
Yes, I'll watch it just because we've got so many students that I know are going to be interested in it. And as we've talked about before, like I think it's really important with especially like pop culture movies that are going to have an influence on college, high school, junior high age to know and to be able to talk about the worldviews and things that are in it just for conversationalism.
That has opened my eyes.
Yeah.
It's not just for the high schoolers.
Yeah.
We do a class for Total Truth,
Yeah.
and I mean even just having through the show talking with some of these people that are way smarter than I am, even if it's an hour and they just tell me good information, that gets me thinking. It's been nice, and the examining worldviews
So
has been unexpected.
Right. And one of the things that I've found really interesting about what you guys do is that you have a very, I guess, kind of indirect way that you approach it. And not just, obviously your podcast started off with just Star Wars. Now it's moved to like more commentary on pop culture and stuff. And you've talked with your faith about it. Well, with the Friday interviews, which is primarily you, you are expanding more on like what the worldviews are and things that are in movies. So as a dad, how has your thought on worldviews in cinemas or in comics and stuff, how's that evolved over the last few years?
What's been interesting is this is the way we watched movies anyway. So when we would watch, and obviously when we started the podcast, that was December of 2017. So Sam was, 16 years old and Nathan was 12. So they were just, with Nathan especially, just kind of coming into watching some of these types of movies and a little bit more of the stuff that we watch now. It's not like Disney. It's not like you're watching Frozen with a 12-year-old boy now. So as we were watching these different things, worldview comes up, and there's a lot of things that need that you address with that. Especially as you're doing a podcast now, because you realize you're looking forward. You're hearing rumors about things that are going to be happening in different franchises that you love to watch the movies in, or read the comic books or whatever. And there's decisions that are being made from a worldview that is diametrically opposed to your worldview. And so you're forced to address those things. You're forced to sit around the kitchen table and say, are we going to continue to watch these movies? Are we going to continue to read these stories? Are we going to, Nathan, are you going to read these comic books if they go down these certain paths with it? And it, I grew up in a world that would have said, David, you're not watching this movie. David,
Right.
you're not reading this comic book. David, you're not going to watch that television show. Instead of teaching me why we disagree with some of those worldview things. And so when we, that my experience forced, and Christy too, her experience growing up, not that we you only get one chance to be a parent, right? You don't get a chance to go do it all over again. It's not easy. Right. Yeah. And so we don't, when I talk about this, I'm not blaming my parents, and Christy's not blaming her parents for making the decisions that they made. They made the decisions that they believed were right based on the situation that they were in and the timing, the time frame that they were in. We made different decisions with certain things. Instead of saying, no, you're not allowed to watch these things, it would be like, why do we disagree with some of these things? Let's talk about this scene, or let's talk about this storyline they're going to go through with this comic book, and let's talk about why we disagree with it. Because, I was 19, 20 years old, and I didn't know what I believed about anything. Yeah. I just knew that mom and dad said, don't, this is right and this is wrong. Nobody, don't you dare ask why. And so I don't want Sam and Nate to grow up not knowing why they believe what they believe, because I think that's why a lot of people in our generations, the deconstruction movement within Christianity is this movement that's really about, they don't know how to think critically about their own faith, and so they just go down this path that's just, it falls apart. They think so critically about it they can't defend it themselves. They just follow the next shepherd that leads them down the wrong path instead of being able to process things. So I want Sam and Nate to be able to make an argument. I want Christy to say, I don't like the Batman. I wouldn't recommend this movie to my friends to take their kids to, and here's why. I want her to feel comfortable saying that, and I want BB Nate to be comfortable enough to sit with that for 24 hours and then argue from not in a disrespectful way, right, but from a worldview perspective. No, I think we need this movie, and here's why. I think that it needs to be this way, and here's why. And then we can talk about those types of things. And I think that's what pop culture and these movies have really done, and the storylines have really done in our relationship. And I think that's one of the reasons that Sam and Nathan, they don't get shaken when their friends disagree with them about things. Mm-hmm. Or when the crowd's going down one path, they're okay. Part of the reason is, they've grown up very independently. They've homeschooled. They don't have the peer pressure from school situations the way that other kids do. And I see that we've moved all over the country, so they've kind of had to grow up with adults. Being around adults more, and so they learn how to interact in that environment.
They've both been on our show.
Mm-hmm.
Which, in some cases they're more adult than you guys.
In a lot of cases.
100%.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
100%, no argument.
Yeah, so they know how to take a stand. They know how to make an argument. They know they don't get swayed with that. And I think that's, as a parent, have I watched movies with my kids that I walk away from that movie and go, wow, I don't think that was a good idea. Yeah, there are, but I don't think that it's going to shake them because they've seen things like that. I don't think that our kids are nearly as fragile as we pretend that they are.
I want to be a little careful, and may want to cut this later, but I relate to that. And with my son, he's very interested in music. He loves movies as well. He considers himself a comedian also, as we saw him at church after lunch cracking up all the kids eating at the table. But I showed him Blazing Saddles recently.
Okay.
And I fast-forwarded through one scene where the sheriff visits, I don't remember what her name is, but they have a little intimate talk. I went past that, but everything else was in there. Mm-hmm, all the jokes, mm-hmm, the racial slurs, there's a lot of stuff in it. Overall, I would make the argument that I think it's a worthwhile movie, because it does paint all of the racist cowboys in a negative light. Mm-hmm. We have the overcoming of that oppression. We have a black, essentially recently freed slave, or some kind, mm-hmm, of very, mm-hmm, low on the totem pole, become sheriff in a very funny way and have to convince a
Right.
town, win him over. There's something like that I feel like I probably shouldn't show him, but I want him to know and have that and see that you may see language doesn't mean you participate in it.
Right.
In fact, you want to look at why it was said and what was behind it.
Yeah, I mean, we watch movies all the time that have terrible language in them, and then you get Nathan on the podcast, and he, they're getting ready to talk about the latest, Jackass movie. That's on there, and he refuses to say the name of the movie,
which I thought was
hilarious.
hilarious.
It's like, okay,
what does he say, Jack Butt?
no, he won't. She's just like, Dad, I'm not saying that. Let's say it right there. On
He'll
the show.
refer. David has to
He's
say
like,
it every
David
time
has
they
to
talk
say
about
this,
it. Yeah.
and it's not like he's chosen. He's not going to use language like that. And so, I don't think that, we've got this mindset sometimes within, conservative world and Christian circles that if our kids hear negative, vulgar language on screen, then they automatically are going to start using that language all the time. And I think that's actually a pretty lazy parenting approach, because of it. My kids can see things and hear things, and, they see movies where Batman's beating, everything out of somebody. That doesn't mean that they're going to go beat them.
Acceptable.
Exactly.
You're
that kind
right.
of thing. So why is it the same thing with some of this other? Now, there are things that we would choose not to watch with our kids. I think a really good example of this with our family was during COVID, when I guess we moved and we didn't have TV anymore. We started watching Big Bang Theory. Have you guys seen the whole series of Big Bang Theory? You have?
I've seen a couple of episodes, but I haven't seen the whole series.
So the first couple of seasons of the Big Bang Theory is Penny is dressed really scantily for pretty much every episode, and
The only female in the group.
Right.
yeah, and there's a lot of sexual humor, like nonstop in the first.
They all are interested in Penny and
just
in different ways.
like
Except-
and
except for
Howard
Sheldon.
is constantly making really
He's
inappropriate
sleazy.
statements and those types of things. And then you get to season 3, and if you know the history behind this story, that's seasons 1 and 2. As the story evolved a little bit, this show started to really take off, and they didn't have contracts beyond season 2. And then so when they decided they were going to renew it for season 3, and this was becoming a huge story, the actress that plays Penny came back and was like, I want a lot more money, and I want a better character. And it means I don't want her dressing like a slut all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't want this sexual humor constantly with it. I want this to be a better story. And they worked all that out. And you get to those later seasons, and the relationships between everybody in that show and the storylines and stuff, they change dramatically. It's a lot better show. And so we're watching through those first couple seasons, and it was kind of like, I don't know if we want to keep doing it. And then we get into season 3 and beyond, and we're falling in love with these characters. But then also we're like, it went from let's watch a couple episodes to we're watching 5, 6 at a time,
Right.
with it. And I'm like, why are we doing this differently? We're having these conversations as a family, and it's because the story is better. And I remember Nathan, he's 14, 15 years old, saying, they didn't have to have all that sexual stuff. The story's better without it. And these are the kinds of conversations that I think we need to have with our kids around pop culture, and allow ourselves to speak into pop culture instead of being afraid of it. And I think that's what so many Christians are, this overreaction in society. They're afraid of pop culture instead of allowing it to be, we need to understand it and we need to have conversations about it.
Yeah, that is one of the things that we've been talking about, is that like we have often as Christians, we've gotten this idea that we're not supposed to indoctrinate our kids, right? That our kids are supposed to make this choice to follow Jesus, that it's their choice that they have to make, and we shouldn't be putting pressure on them or influencing them in any way. And one that's not entirely biblical, because if we're not, sharing the gospel with our kids, then we're likely not doing it elsewhere. And what more important thing is there for us to do than that as Christ followers? But second is that we can say that we don't want to indoctrinate them all the way we want to, but that doesn't mean that other people aren't going to try to.
Exactly.
And there are a lot of Christian parents that I think have walked that line. And then there is, there's people on both extremes. How do a set of Christian parents, right? How do Christian parents know, this is acceptable to take my kids to, this is a good thing for us to go watch and then to talk about, and this is something that they should not see? How do you draw those lines?
You make lots of mistakes. You're not perfect. None of us were expecting are ever going to be a perfect parent. And so you go to a movie and you walk out of the movie and you're saying, I probably shouldn't have taken my kids to see that movie. Then you need to say to your kids, I probably shouldn't have taken you to this movie, and here is why. And then you have a conversation about it. And then as you have those types of conversations, or you watch a TV show, there's been shows where we've gotten 2-3 seasons in, and we start seeing it, and we're just like, we're not going to continue to watch the show. And it's kind of, and I've seen with Sam and Nathan, there's almost this, yeah, I think you're right. It's like they were feeling it too, but they were not going to say anything about it. So you just got to have these conversations, be willing to make these mistakes and not be afraid of it. And as far as not indoctrinating our kids, that's just one of the most unbiblical statements in the world. Deuteronomy 6 is clear. You're to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And you're supposed to take these commandments that I'm teaching you, and you're supposed to teach them to your kids at home, and when you're on the road, and when they lie down, and when they rise up, and the community is a part of it, and they need to see you communicating these things to them constantly. And this is who you are. We better start indoctrinating our kids in these things, because you're right. The world is constantly bombarding our kids with a anti-biblical, anti-Christian worldview that is honestly resulting in just absolute chaos in our kids. These kids need to have truth. We have to start indoctrinating them with it, but we also don't need to be afraid of the world. And I think that's where this goes wrong. I grew up in a world that was like indoctrinate, and be scared. I grew up in a world that literally, as somebody that's a massive Star Wars fan now, right, and has a podcast that started as a Star Wars podcast, I grew up in a world where I could remember driving across Kansas when I was like 9 or 10 years old, and my dad listening to an audio cassette of this teacher that was talking about how Star Wars was new age and it was indoctrinating our kids, and my dad stopping the cassette and saying, David, you're not allowed to watch Star Wars anymore. And I was like 18 years old. Yeah, I was 18 years old before I saw any more Star Wars with it. And that didn't, it's...
So which ones had you seen to that point?
Also,
I'd seen all three.
Which false teacher was this?
No joke. Yeah, no, I know exactly. I could name her right now. It's
Sandy Patty.
It's Constance Cumby, and if you know who Constance Cumby is, you attack them, not me. Okay.
No,
definitely
seriously. Wasn't Sandy Patty and Gerber.
It was. I
just thought about listening to old cassettes. Sandy Patty popped right in.
Yeah.
Sandy Patty's awesome. Christy's favorite artist was Sandy Patty growing up.
She was mine growing up when I was very little, because that's all we listened to was church music.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would request Sandy Patty. Patty.
I wanted to saddle up my horses and get on a trail to blaze.
Yeah, Stephen Curtis Chapman. Let's go back. SC squared, baby. All right. So anyway, it didn't work. It wasn't helpful because I remember later on in life just thinking that it was stupid.
Yeah.
Not being able to have a conversation about these things. And so, and going to a college where they taught these kinds of things. And when I withdrew from college, the last day I was at the school, I had to do an exit interview with the Dean of Men. And the Dean of Men asked me to, actually what they did was they made me fill out a form. And then because of something I said on the form, the Dean of Men wanted to talk to me about it.
The Dean of Men was an official position?
Can that be my position?
You're the Dean of Men?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Well, because everyone keeps asking, are you the new music minister? Are you the new associate? I would love to say no.
I'm the Dean of Men.
But I am the Dean of Men.
Dean of
Yeah,
Men.
exactly. Dean.
Yeah.
Well, what does that mean?
I don't know.
So whatever.
He was the guy that was basically kept all the guys under his thumb with it. So
It's kind of the opposite
the question
of my
that I had
job.
answered was, it was like, why are you leaving? Why are you withdrawing from the school? And it was a pretty tame, simple question, right? I said, well, because I've learned that there is 1 to 2 different types of people that graduate from this university. And the first is the person that walks out of this door, doesn't know why they believe what they believe. They just know they don't want to have anything to do with Jesus the rest of their lives. And they leave and they never walk into a church again. I said, or there's these people that walk out of this school and they don't know why they believe what they believe, and they're never going to do anything but do what they're told by their church for the rest of their lives, and they have no foundation. I don't want to be either one of those, and that's why I'm withdrawing. And so,
that's fair.
I didn't want my kids to be that. And so Christy and I have made very deliberate choices in the way that we interact with the kids, and the boys, and I feel like it's we've made lots of mistakes, but at the same time, it's working for us. So
Well, you have a wonderful family, as I've said before.
Even Christy with the Wordle hack.
Yeah, hey, Christy just got +5 wife power.
Yeah, she did.
That was a pretty baller move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she messaged me about how excited she was to see that. So.
Success.
Happy to help.
Mission
Happy to help.
success.
Yeah.
So
I was interrupted with my compliment.
Yes. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, I don't know. Yeah, your family's great.
Thank you.
I've taken some modeling. I would love to. Haven't figured this out, but start a podcast with my kid. I know you guys started out on the kitchen.
Yeah.
There's no better story to me than that. You don't need the full setup. You don't need. You can do it theoretically on your phone.
Yeah.
But having that conversation, especially between a father and a son, it could be anybody, but especially with a father and son having conversations and documenting it is a very cool idea.
And all of that is a huge part of this, but there's some very practical things about having had this podcast with Sam and Nate is, especially after the show sort of got on the radar with the whole Turbis thing with Ryan Johnson. And when that happened,
he for those who don't know, one of the kids, BB Nate, got to name a Star Wars creature, which is a pretty big thing to do.
and it was a terrible show when that happened.
The movie.
No. The Last Jedi is beautiful. It's a masterpiece. But the podcast was terrible. We'd done 9 episodes, and it was just horrible.
Dude, we understand. We understand.
We've done 109 episodes, and it's just horrible.
No, it's not that bad. So, but at that point, it was like something special is happening with the show. When that happened, and it became like, all right, guys, we can't miss a week anymore. We can't be off. It doesn't matter that you don't feel good. So it started turning into, you've got responsibility here. And then when everything happened with Facebook a couple of years ago, and that became part of the show, and now we have sponsors that we work with on it. It's become you have responsibilities, and so it's just very practical as well, because there's a rhythm to doing a podcast. You guys know that you have a schedule, you have to edit, you have to do all these things. The boys, each Sam and Nate both have their own segment that they have to write and they have to craft, and they put a lot more effort into their segments than you guys do.
No doubt.
A couple hours each that they're putting in just their one little 10-15 minute segment at most cases, and that
but I have a beard.
I used to.
So what?
You have a beard too.
Yeah.
There's a Facebook group about George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, and Francis Ford Coppola called the Bearded Trio. Have you seen this page?
No.
It's like just all about their history, and it constantly talks about those three guys. And I was like,
Do
man,
their beards come into it, or
it's like
it talks about how the three men.
Yeah.
How about the beards in the title? Does it always talk?
I just think that they always show pictures of them with beards. But I'm sitting here thinking, if I wouldn't have shaved my beard off before Pensacon a couple weeks ago, we could have been the bearded trio for the.
We could have.
Yeah, the bearded podcasting trio.
Baby, you had to wuss out, and
my wife is much more happy with me right now.
Really?
It was 15 years.
My wife hated it when I shaved.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mine too.
Yeah.
She gets legit angry with me.
Really?
When you shave?
When I shave. If I shave all this off, she will be furious.
There's 100 things that are on the tip of my tongue, and I'm going to say none of them because we're
Go
friends.
for it.
Nope. So, David, as you well know, we end all of our interviews with a segment we call Controlled Rowdiness. These are rapid-fire questions which you can answer.
As opposed to what we've experienced for the last hour.
Which was a lot of preparation. You can answer these as quickly or as at length as you would like to.
Okay.
There are no wrong or right answers, but there are several wrong ones, so be careful not to step on any of those landmines. And Danley, I will turn this over to you,
You
as
always
we go.
make me go first.
As we go into the vault for some of these.
This is the part I was most nervous
Rowdiness
about.
questions.
Oh yeah, you should be
I
nervous.
know, I'm scared.
Yeah.
Well, how about we start with just a real fun question?
Okay.
It actually is. It's a very softball. You get to pick any Star Wars spacecraft to fly. Think individual spacecraft. So
Gotcha.
not a Death
class
Star,
or-
which technically you can fly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It does go in hyperspace.
Yeah.
Okay.
They
Just wanna
can
make
they
sure.
can move. So you get to pick any of those to fly. What do you choose?
Millennium Falcon.
Okay.
Millennium
I was
Falcon.
going to go through. There's the slave. There's
No,
Millennium
it's
Falcon
always
hands
been the
down.
Millennium Falcon.
Are you concerned at all about the difficulty of flying the Millennium Falcon?
No, it'll fly itself. It's got we're losing my mic here.
But there's always something to fix. There's always something breaking down. That's my concern.
But it's the Millennium Falcon though.
You got to. Oh yeah, I agree.
I mean, it's just it's the most iconic of all of the Star Wars ships. I mean, the X-wing is pretty iconic.
Yeah.
But whenever I think of Star Wars and watching Star Wars as a little kid, the first thing that pops into my mind is Millennium Falcon, and Han Solo is my favorite character in Star Wars. So, it's kind of cool. Have you guys ever had a chance to go to Galaxy's Edge yet?
I have. Yeah.
You have it. And so you've flown the Millennium Falcon.
I did. We didn't get to go on
Rise of Resistance.
Yeah. Yeah,
sorry.
we didn't get to do that. But I did get to fly the Millennium Falcon, and it's incredible.
It is incredible.
I have not, but someday.
Yeah.
And just so you guys know, this was a leftover question from Ashley Cox from last week, with a slight change. If you could pick, if you had to bomb an ex-boyfriend's house, which would you pick? X-wing, Y-wing, or
A-wing? Yeah. Yep. What's
I
the?
thought it a little too harsh, so I didn't ask it.
What's the worst Star Wars purchase you've ever made?
Ooh. 2017 Star Wars Celebration Orlando. I spent $300 on a lightsaber without asking my wife first.
Ooh. Is it cool?
It's okay. It wasn't nearly. I mean, there are better ones now, but at the time it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Do you have a limit that you guys have discussed that
We're broke, so the answer is I have no money. So
I got it. I hear
so
you.
anything I spend, I'm gonna have to. I have to judge whether or not I'm.
It's an immediate phone
is
call.
this-
Don't spend money, honey.
And I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy this, and I'm probably going to get in trouble. How much trouble am I about to get in with it,
Yeah.
based on what I'm buying and how much I'm spending? And that's not about Christy. It's about the fact that we're poor, and that's my fault. So,
I understand. It's the plight of the father.
that's right.
Your turn. Your question. You're up.
I don't think I've heard you guys talk about Doctor Who.
Never. We started to watch the original, very early, like the black and white version of Doctor Who. We watched like one episode
way
of
back.
it, and we also had it after it finished and looked at each other and we're like, never mind. And then we moved on. So I know, I mean, I've got so many friends that love Doctor Who.
I love it.
They are like, you guys would absolutely love this series.
I think you would.
It's just figuring out where to start without falling into
and it's a
some of
lot.
that.
It's a lot because if you start with Chris Eccleston, what was it, 2009 that it came out? I think when they rebooted it.
Okay.
The reboot is the place to start, but even then, it's British and it's pretty silly at times. But it does get much better with David Tennant and some of the later Doctors.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. So that was my question. Is I haven't heard you guys talk about Doctor Who. Have you experienced? What'd you think? I think we got our answer.
Maybe something that as life goes on, maybe BB Nate and I can do some watching together and maybe do a little mini series.
That would be cool.
That would be fun.
Your mother comes in. She's coming for a visit. She's like, "Hey, David, I need to talk to you." She sits you down in the room and she says, "I can't believe you never told me." What did she just find out?
I don't know if I can answer that. Not that I don't. I mean, I just don't know. I mean, my mother and I have always had a really, really close relationship, and I don't know if there's anything that I haven't really told her that I would like look back and be like, oh yeah, there's this one thing. I mean,
I knew there'd be something.
Yeah.
I've got them. Although I did have my mom on, and she confronted me about a gun that she found one time when I was growing up.
Danley.
So that's
Found
something
at
that
the
she
lake.
does know about.
Ish.
You shut your mouth.
She does know about it. We talked
that's okay.
about
She
it.
doesn't watch or listen to this either. So.
No, actually,
she
Majin
does
does.
some.
Yeah, Majin does.
I'm rolling the dice that it's not this
Yep.
one.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. All right.
Edit. All right.
Yeah, that was the look of Luke. You better cut this out of this episode. Yeah.
Okay. Where were we? Because we didn't get.
I asked what he never told me.
Yeah,
He
something
said,
you never told your
Yeah,
mom.
he said nothing.
And you said nothing.
I can't think of anything.
No, he's
Okay.
David's come clean.
You're
already.
you're a good boy.
I try to be.
Yeah.
That's why our wives wanted us to hang out with you.
Is that
Yeah, they were like, learn from David and stop playing Wordle.
I agree with that last one.
Yeah.
So.
We're gonna have to edit this a lot.
What 3 superpowers would be most dangerous for you to possess?
That's a good question too.
What 3 superpowers would be most invisibility?
Mm-hmm.
Dangerous. Like Hulk's strength.
Ooh, okay.
Just because I'm a pretty laid back dude until I get really angry, and so having Hulk strength would be bad. Oh yeah, like the ability to read people's minds.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Telekinesis or whatever. No, that's moving.
Yeah,
things.
that's
This is
moving things. Yeah. Telepathy.
Yeah. Okay. Next, I've got a question.
Especially if you could be invisible and strong while you were reading their minds, that would be
The combination
creepy.
of those 3 would
yeah,
be.
yeah. That's
who
bad.
in your opinion is better at contacting dead prophets, and who is better at hunting hobbits? The Witch of Endor and the Witch King of Angmar.
Wow. I mean, one of them's real, so we'll go with Witch of Endor.
All right, and there you have it. Problem solved.
Really nerdy.
Yeah.
That's like specific nerdy. That's,
That was a good deep dive,
fantasy
though.
Thank
nerd and Bible nerd.
That was
Yeah.
good.
That was good.
Thank
well,
you.
David, thanks for being on the show once
Thank you.
again. I'm sorry, and it was blessed. Tell our audience where it is that they can find you guys one more time.
Tatooine Sons on anything. That's SONS. Yeah, podcast, website, social media.
Tatooine Sons.
That's it.
And Tatooine is spelled the traditional way. For
Yeah,
everybody.
like
It's not SU.
oh, so for years I kept trying to figure out why all these tattoo artists were following our
Tattoo
Instagram, and I'm like, they're like, it's somehow coming up on Instagram as a tattooing.
That's awesome.
Would you ever get a tattoo?
No, it's just
I don't have one, and on the fence.
on the fence.
It's got to be something that means something, and nothing means
Nothing means anything.
Everything is meaningless.
Thanks.
Thank you. The teacher has
And
spoken.
and on that, make sure that you read
Vanity of vanity.
Yeah, make
all
sure
this
to read
vanity.
Ecclesiastes, and then we're out of here. Thanks for watching Reverend and Reprobate. Y'all have a good gig. We'll see you next week.
What if I just got that tattooed? Meaningless.